أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا بالقاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد
وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين المنتجبين سيما بقية الله في الأرضين روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. For the hastening and return of our beloved Imam, recite salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
For us to be of those who get to recognize the Imam and see the Imam in our lifetime, recite the second one louder.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
And for the safety of all the oppressed around the world, in Nigeria, in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, Bahrain, Yemen, and those in Kashmir, recite the third one with the loudest of your voices.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجه.
Respected elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
First of all, I would like to send my condolences to you all on the martyrdom of Imam Baqir alayhi salam.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجه.
Before I begin speaking briefly about the life of Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam, as you all know, today's program is sponsored for the maghfirah of my grandfather, Marhum Haji Syed Fazil Shah. So could I ask you all to please recite Al-Fatiha once and Surah Ikhlas 3 times. Salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
We as Shia and Ashari followers, we believe in 12 Imams.
شك.
Correct? We believe in 12 Imams. Hopefully the youngsters remember the 12 Imams. But I feel when it comes to the 12 Imams, we know a lot about Amir al-Mu'mineen. We know a lot how Imam Ali was during the battles, about his ilm, about his courage. We know about Imam Hussain, the tragedy of Karbala. And we know a little bit about Imam Jafar Sadiq, since our school is named after Imam Jafar Sadiq, we're called Jafari. Then we know a little bit about some of the other Imams. And I feel the fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam, is neglected. We don't know too much information about the fifth Imam. Even though it's due to the fifth Imam that laid the foundations for Shiaism, and then Imam Sadiq alayhi salam made it reach its peak. So I feel that they're a little bit neglected, so I'm going to talk a little bit about their lifetime.
Bismillah.
Salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجه.
So who was the fifth Imam? Do any youngsters know the name of the fifth Imam Hussain? Don't be shy. I've mentioned it I think 3-4 times already. Yeah, who was the fifth Imam? Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
So Imam Muhammad Baqir was the son of Imam Ali ibn Hussain, Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. And one thing very unique about Imam Baqir alayhi salam is that he's a direct descendant of two Imams from both sides, his mother and his father. So he was born in Medina and he was called Mohamed. Why was that Imam called Mohammed? Because of their resemblance to the Holy Prophet. And then we have many narrations that testify to this. One of the narrations that we have is from one of the companions of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Is Jabir ibn Abdullah Ansari. So he asked the Prophet, because who are the descendants from your daughter and Imam Ali alayhi salam? So this is Jabir asking the Prophet. Then the Prophet replies, says, "Oh Jabir, you will have a long life. Even though you will go blind in your old age, you will meet the fifth in my line. His name will be my name. He will walk like me. And he will be the fifth Imam of the time." And then the Prophet continued and said, "Jabir, when you see this fifth Imam, give him my salam." So now, just like the Prophet predicted, Jabir grew old. Because this is the Prophet's time. Now there's five Imams, is quite a bit of a distance. So Jabir grows old, he's lost his sight. Reports say he's lost his sight. He used to come out in the streets, eagerly waiting to meet this fifth Imam, since the Prophet gave this request to him and said, "Give him my salam when you see him." He would come out on the streets, say, "Ya Baqir, Ya Baqir, Aina Ant?" So, "Oh Baqir, where are you?" Then one time when Jabir was sitting on the streets, he heard some footsteps. And it reminded him of those footsteps of the Holy Prophet.
Subhanallah, mashallah.
And then as soon as he heard those footsteps, he approached that man. He said, "What is your name?" He said, "My name is Mohammed." "Who is your father?" "My father Ali ibn Hussain." Jabir straight away recognized that this is the fifth Imam. He embraced him. He kissed him and he said that the Prophet sends his greeting and salams to you. What do we learn from this? There's many traditions, many narrations similar to this that talk about how Jabir asked the Prophet. And in these narrations, what do we learn? That the names of the Imams are actually mentioned. And the other thing that we actually learn is the resemblance of Imam Baqir alayhi salam to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Recite another salawat, please.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajal farajah.
So it was under the fifth Imam and the sixth Imam's time that the Islamic sciences actually witnessed a significant advancement. Because during the previous Imam's time, due to the circumstances they were in, they weren't able to publicly speak about the Islamic sciences and publicly teach the Islamic laws. But Imam Baqir's time, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam's time, was a bit different. Why was it a bit different? If you look at the Umayyads at that time, in the fifth Imam's time, they were preoccupied with the threat from the Abbasides trying to overthrow them, trying to take their throne. And then they had many internal issues or many internal problems for the Umayyads. So that time was a bit more lenient in comparison to the time of Imam Ali, the time of Imam Hussain, and the other Imams. And you only have to look at our hadith books, our narration books. If you look at the Kutub al-Arba and the hadiths, the narrations that we have, the narrations we have from the fifth Imam and the sixth Imam are greater in number than all of the other Imams put together. So the fifth Imam's time and the sixth Imam's time, the narrations that they have are greater than all of the other Imams. And this itself shows that their time was a bit different to the times of the previous Imams.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajal farajah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajal farajah.
One of the points I want you all to remember and pay attention to is, after the Prophet's death and Shahadat, we know the writing and compilation of hadith was prohibited. And it was only in the time of Umar Abdul Aziz that he commanded for hadith to be written again. And this was in the same time of Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam. So before that, narrations, you couldn't write down any hadiths or any narrations that they had from the Prophet. They would gather them and burn them and destroy them. No one was allowed to write down hadith. And in this time, in the time of Imam Baqir alayhi salam, Umar Abdul Aziz, he actually ordered that we should start writing hadith again. So what happened at this time? At this time, many people started fabricating hadith. Why? Because they wanted to support or gain support for their views. The wrong views that they had, all the rulers, the governments, they wanted to gain support. So what did they do? They ordered people, they paid people to start fabricating hadith to support their views. So this was a very vital and important time for Imam Baqir alayhi salam to combat this. Because at the same time he had to refute them and at the same time save the Islamic culture. So I'm going to go over some of the issues, a few of the issues that Imam Baqir alayhi salam faced, and then inshallah we will appreciate why the Imam is actually called Imam Baqir. Why is he called the dissector of knowledge? Why the splitter of knowledge? Recited salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajal farajahum.
So I briefly touched on the first point. The first point was about hadith, narrations being banned or prohibited. If you look at the time of Imam Baqir alayhi salam, Islamic laws and the narrations on Islamic laws were being lost. When I say this, maybe some of us won't believe it, but we have reports in our history, in our narrations, that people at that time didn't know how to pray properly. So during the Imam's time, Shias, believers, didn't know how to pray properly. At one time when it came to the month of Ramadan and they were told to give zakat ul-fitra, people didn't know what zakat ul-fitra was. People didn't know how to do Hajj properly. This is at the time of Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam. So Islamic laws, that Islamic culture was being lost. Why? Because everyone was busy with power, they were busy in their own materialistic pleasures. What was another issue at the time of Imam Baqir alayhi salam was the growth of a group called the Murji'ah, if I pronounce that correctly. There's different reasons given for this group why they're actually called Murji'ah. One of the reasons is that they actually believed that as long as your heart is clean, it doesn't matter too much about action. So God won't punish us. Why? Because our heart is clean. Even if we didn't act on namaz, salat, God will forgive us. Another thing, they delayed action or they delayed judgment as well. When I'm mentioning this, some of you are thinking, this is not only in Imam Baqir's time, this is in our time as well. We have people, unfortunately, amongst our communities, hopefully not in this community, that have these views. Some people believe that as long as my heart is clean and my intention is clean and pure, it doesn't matter if I don't read namaz, it doesn't matter if I don't pay my khums or pay my zakat. Or someone approaches a sister who's not wearing hijab, and we should approach them in the best of ways, by the way. We shouldn't push them away. But sometimes some of these sisters may reply, it doesn't matter about my hijab, physical hijab. My heart is pure, I don't think anything bad. I go to where I shake non-mahram's hands. Why? Because my heart is pure. So in Imam Baqir's time we had those views as well. But what did Imam Baqir say? Let's look at some of the narrations. One of the narrations that Imam Baqir actually in a way was refuting this group. So one of the hadiths, there's many similar to this, says, our Shia, who are they? These are talking about the traits of Shia. If you look at Imam Baqir and Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, they have many narrations on who the real Shia are, the traits of the true Shia. And one of these says, our Shia, they fear Allah. They obey Him. They are humble and pious. They pay the trust. They praise Allah very much. They perform the prayers and fasting. They obey their parents. They take care of their poor neighbors. And the hadith continues. And in many other narrations, the Imam emphasizes action. He says you have to act, you have to be obedient to God's laws. God's told us to pray 5 times, we have to pray 5 times. It's not, oh, you know, God, even though you told us to pray 5 times, I'm going to say, you know what, I'm not going to read 5 times. I'm just going to say my niyat is pure and inshallah when I get old I'll start praying. It's like, no. The true Shia, actions follow. We can't just have a pure heart. It's good to have a pure heart. We have to have pure intention. But actions have to follow that.
MashaAllah, Subhanallah.
And one of the other things that I'll mention here, briefly, the Shia, there's many traits of the Shia. One of the other traits is standing up for the oppressed. We have to stand up for the oppressed. If we see oppression happening in whatever form it is, whatever we can do, we need to stand up for that oppression. If we look around the world today, how many Muslims, non-Muslims are being oppressed? Look in Nigeria, look in Kashmir. Everyone looks at the news. Look at Yemen, Bahrain, Palestine. All over the world, the Muslims are being oppressed. Us being Shias of Imam Baqir, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, we need to question ourselves, what am I doing to stand up for the oppressed? There's many ways to stand up for the oppressed. There's not only one way to stand up for the oppressed. We need to, through our hearts, our prayers, sometimes through these petitions that are going around, writing letters, sometimes by actually protesting. There's protests going on. That's one way of standing up for the oppressed. And at the moment, I think it's the 30th day, the sit-in protest outside the Nigerian embassy for Sheikh Zakzaki. If any of you can, I encourage you, those of you who can, go and attend and stand up for the oppressed in that way. If you can't attend in that way, at least in other ways, through your prayers and through your du'as, stand up for the oppressed.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajal farajahum.
Another point, during the time of Imam Baqir, another issue was the issue of the ghulat. By the way, I'm not just making up these issues. There were definite issues at the time of Imam Baqir. They're taken from one of our great historians that we have today, Rasul Ja'fariyan, in his book. One of the issues that our 5th Imam faced was the issue of the ghulat. Who were the ghulat? The ghulat had extreme views. We all know who they are when people say ghalis. Some people attributed the Ahlul Bayt to God. They thought Ahlul Bayt were actually God, or the sons of God. And this was apparent in Imam Baqir's time, and it was more apparent in Imam Sadiq alayhi salam's time, and other Imams. What did the Imams do to these people? If we look at Imam Baqir alayhi salam's time, the Imam ordered the Shia to disassociate themselves from them. So these people, stay away from them. Don't sit with them. Don't even eat with them. The other Imams did similar. So we need to stay away from these ghulat. Unfortunately, nowadays, I don't want to go into this point too much, but we all can think. Do we have these issues in our communities today? The Imams sacrificed everything for the true message of Islam to be relived. They had those issues in those times, but they sacrificed everything so the true message remains. They used to get scared when people used to try and associate themselves with God. To do istighfar is that, how can you even attribute us to God? We are the abd. Don't associate ourselves with God. There used to be that shyness. But nowadays, unfortunately, due to a lack of education and playing with words, in our community this is prevalent. We, for some reason, like to bring the Ahlul Bayt within the same line of God. But the Ahlul Bayt didn't do this. If we want to be true Shia, we need to follow the Ahlul Bayt. Follow our leaders. Don't start doing what we think is right. Let's follow what the Ahlul Bayt and the Quran say.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Mohamed.
And these are only some of the difficulties, some of the issues that the Imam faced. There's many issues that the Imam faced. But even having these issues, there was another responsibility that Imam had. One of those responsibilities was the upbringing of role models, training role models. Because we know we had all these views, these wrong views, all these different groups rising. The Imam had to oppose them. The Imam did oppose them. He debated the leaders of these wrong views and refuted them. But he also trained many students. Some of his prominent students, I think the number was, some of the scholars say 466 prominent students of the Imam. I'm just going to mention some of the names of some of these ashab of the Imam. So we get familiar with the names, and inshallah, when we start researching and reading, you'll see these names a lot. One of the names is Zurara. We always hear about Zurara. Then you have Ma'ruf bin Kharbuz, you have Abu Basir Asadi, Mohamed bin Muslim. And what did the Imam say about these individuals? Imam Sadiq about Zurara, he says, may God bless Zurara. If he didn't live, if he wasn't there, there would be nothing of Nabuwwat and Hadith of my father left. This Imam talking about is not another Imam, it's a non-infallible. I'll touch on this in a short while. Then you had other followers like Aban bin Taglab or Taglib. Who was he? He actually lived in the time of Imam Sajjad, Imam Muhammad Baqir and Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. And Imam Baqir alayhi salam actually ordered him to sit in the masjid of Medina and give fatwa. Again, I'm emphasizing a point here. That an Imam is telling a non-ma'soom to sit on the minbar and give fatwa. And then the Imam said that I like to see Shia like this. Then when Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he heard the news of his death, he said, after hearing the death of Aban, I've got a heartache, my heart is hurting. Like some of these narrators, they memorized 30,000 hadith from the Imam, 70,000 hadith from the Imam. These are ashab of the Imam. Why did I mention this? And I kept emphasizing this, like sometimes in our communities, we have, this view, wrong view is shared, that we can't follow a non-ma'soom. We can't listen to or get our advice from a non-ma'soom. Just look at the Imam's life and the other Imam's life. They encourage us to learn from these people. Ask those people. If you don't know, ask those people. Where's the harm in asking? In other fields, when we don't know, we ask them. If it comes to engineering, I see some engineers here. When you don't know something, you're going to go to someone who knows about engineering. Just like that, the Imams, they knew these people knew different topics in different fields. They said, go and ask them. Even though the Imams were present, they said, ask these people. And then I think I was listening to a lecture on Masjid Ali's actually Facebook page. I think Sheikh Mirza is having discussions on Taqleed at the moment, a few days ago. So if anyone has any questions of following a non-ma'soom or why we should do, there's different ways of following Islamic law. One way is doing Taqleed. It's not the only way. So he's having those classes. If those of you have any questions on that from this community, you should go and attend those sessions. So I'll conclude, despite the Imam facing these difficulties and actually witnessing the tragedy of Karbala at a young age, I think some of us probably don't know this, but Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam, according to some of our reports, was actually present at Karbala. He was around 4 years old. So he witnessed from a young age what happened in Karbala and what happened after that. Despite all of that, what did he do? He did what his responsibility was, just like the other Imams. Imam Ali, Imam Hussain, whatever their responsibility was, they did it. At the time of Imam Baqir alayhi salam, he spread knowledge far and wide. So if we look at his life, he revived the Islamic culture that was being lost. Some of the narrations that I mentioned, I didn't have too much time. There's many things that we could mention, but the Islamic culture, that identity was being lost. So those foundations were laid through the fifth Imam and he reached his peak. That's why we named Ja'far. He reached his peak through his son, Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam. Now I'd like to end by asking Allah to give us the tawfiq to gain inspiration from our fifth Imam. We ask Allah to cure all the sick, both physically and spiritually. We ask Allah to help the oppressed all around the world, be it Kashmir, Nigeria, Pakistan, Bahrain, all over the world. Lastly, I would like to end by asking Allah to give us the tawfiq to witness the zuhur of our beloved Imam in our lifetime. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.